Psalms chapter 35 and the final verses of the chapter say, "Let them be ashamed and brought to confusion together that rejoice at my hurt. Let them be clothed with shame and dishonor that magnify themselves against me. Let them shout for joy and be glad that favor my righteous cause. Let them say continually, Let the Lord be magnified, which had pleasure in prosperity of his servant. And my tongue shall speak of your righteousness, and all your praise all the day long." Psalm 35, and those are the final verses of that psalm. Man, it's so nice to see Justice League fans and they're being able to relate this movie to BVS. And once again, when we look at this movie, we see the parallels here. And I did show this in one of my videos, and that video you can find in Justice League Unite, which is my Facebook group. Come on and join it. You find some really original, really interesting things about this movie. And here I'm just showing you some of the stuff I posted, and there are some other people. It's a young group. We are now about 5 strong, but we really are pushing to get this movie as much positive exposure as possible. So join our group on Facebook. You can just come and invite yourself to the group, Justice League Unite. There's a lot of interesting things on there. I also posted up a video, this video right here, which is about Justice League. Is it too campy? Is Batman too cheesy, etc.? Couldn't post it up on YouTube, so I got it there. So you guys can check that out. Of course, I did all kinds of stuff and back behind the scenes stuff before that. But we now got the group activated and up and running. And between today and the end of this week, we hope that our membership will grow tremendously, as well as we want to make a good PR push for this movie so that it can really weather the storm and make it to where it needs to go. So the other one, this is of course a fanboy moment here, is seeing the Justice League. A fan basically paired off the Justice League members like they were in the Alex Ross painting of them. And I thought this is so awesome that I just had to share it with you guys on YouTube and in social media. And for those of you who may not be able to see my video on Batman and why I say he's not cheesy, etc., I will just simply put it this way. Batman, we see in Justice League, he smiles when Superman appears, and then later on he stammers when speaking to Superman. Also, Batman was the subject of what people thought was funny when after Superman had tossed him aside, he said something's definitely bleeding, and a lot of people laughed at that. So because Batman seemed to be beaten around in Justice League, he was the subject of jokes. Wonder Woman slammed him into a sort of wall siding thing. Superman just tossed him around, bashed him around. I mean, he was no threat to Steppenwolf in any way, shape, or form. A lot of people said that Batman wasn't Batman that we saw in Batman v Superman. You know, because a lot of people are used to the idea that Batman, generally, he has no fear. Generally, he's a threat to everyone and not the other way around. That Batman can do the impossible and so on. I remember some people saying that Batman just jumps with the kryptonite spear and stabs Doomsday, and everybody wanted to see that happen, which is just not realistic at all. Batman is a human being. And the whole reason Batman felt threatened by metahumans, in particular Superman, and he feared Superman, was because Superman had the potential to wipe out the entire world if he was to turn bad, and he was worried, and that's why he tried to stop Superman. Now, I want to focus on Batman from that video, because my video actually shows you his evolution from that point of fearing superpowered beings. His first interaction with a really powerful superpowered being that could change the whole world was Superman. And his fear turned into rage and hate, as Alfred said. Men fall from the sky, innocents die. The fear, the rage that turns good men cruel. So that's what happened to Batman effectively in BVS. But there is a point in time in BVS, a turning point in Batman's life, because Batman's motivation had to be established in BVS. And Zack Snyder did a very brilliant job of visually portraying his entire background, his history, and his motivations in that beautiful opening scene with the Waynes and their death. And in their death, Batman is thrown into a pit of despair, into darkness. And then his darkness is enlightened when he realizes that through the bat, he can be this protector of the innocent by taking out his wrath, taking out his rage, taking out his fears, taking out everything on the criminals. However, this light, he says, is a beautiful lie. When he sees Superman, he realizes the damage and destruction he does and how many innocents die as a result of that. And so now he realizes he cannot intimidate Superman because it's about making Superman feel like he feels, powerless, fearful. That's what he did to the criminals. And now Superman became enemy number one because Superman was so powerful that Batman couldn't instill fear in him. He realized that Superman had to be stopped from killing innocents. And so this is how he sees it in his mind, at least. And so Batman is driven down that pathway because Lex Luthor realizes his psychology, realizes what makes Batman tick, and therefore Lex Luthor eggs him on by creating this false world where Superman seems to be the culprit, killing a lot of innocents. He seems to be the subject of controversy, and he seems to be behind all of these heinous acts. And this drives Batman into rage, hate, and he's going down a villainous path because Batman is slowly becoming the beast, the monster, the demon that he tries to portray to criminals. But now he's about to kill the very people he's trying to protect, which is an innocent. He doesn't realize this, but it is an innocent he's about to kill. And as he has Superman below his boot and he's about to deliver the death blow, Superman says a word, and by the way, he utters these words to Superman. He says, "You're not a god. You're not even a man." Because he doesn't see Superman as a man. He doesn't see Superman as a god. He sees him as a demon almost. A criminal to be destroyed. Or, yes, get rid of. And as Batman is about to deliver the death blow, Superman connects with him through his mother by saying, "You're letting him kill Martha. Find him. Save Martha." And basically Superman, his goal is to find Lex Luthor and save his mother. And particularly the way how he said it was a paradox to what Batman just said. Because Superman is able to connect with Batman on an emotional level that only a human could. And he goes into the depths of Batman's soul because Batman is Batman because his mother died. And the last word he heard from his dying father's breath was Martha. And the powerful thing about that is the humanity of Superman now touches Batman. And this is what it carries over into Justice League when he says to Jeremy Irons' character, which is Alfred, he says, "Superman was stronger than I am." And Alfred interrupts him, "It's not how strong you are. He was more human than I am. And that humanity is what Bruce, Batman, the dead Bruce, the living Batman, is able, he has experienced firsthand from Superman. Because we see him go from hate and rage and anger to immense sorrow and loss. You see it in his face. And it's unfortunate I can't show you the video because it's up on Facebook, where you can actually see his face transforming. It's a wonderful performance by Ben Affleck and a beautiful range of emotions he has to go through in this movie. And you see him connect with his loss, and then you see him start to recap. And as he's recapping, it is his purpose. It is repurposing him because he is going through the fact that he was an innocent. And Superman speaks to that. And he keeps on saying to Superman, why did you say that name? Because this is left field. This stops him in the middle of his tracks. He's about to execute this monster, this demon in his eyes that must be stopped. And this demon says to him, you're letting him kill Martha. And that is a double speak. Superman's really talking about Lex Luthor killing Martha because he was trying to explain to him before he said, Bruce. Lex is trying to, right, with the sonic cannons. So Superman is now going to finish his conversation with Batman. He gets one chance. And with his dying words, he's not pleading for his life. He's talking about saving some other person named Martha. And that person, because Bruce doesn't know who Martha is, that he's talking about, but it throws him for a loop because everything on Bruce's mind throughout this movie has been about his mother. Because his mother was taken from him, he has chosen this path. He goes to the cemetery to see his parents, to repurpose in his heart that not another innocent like me will die. Martha is everything to Bruce because Martha is everything he has lost. He has lost his humanity because of Martha, and he does not want another soul to lose their humanity. Bruce died. You saw him going down the well. Bruce died when Martha died. And so you will notice that when even Clark is pleading to Bruce in BVS, Bruce does not respond because Bruce is dead. The Batman is alive. And for the first time, Bruce is being recollected to the very thing that he lost. You're letting him kill Martha. This means to Bruce, you're letting the robber kill her again. The very thing you're trying to prevent. The very thing you stood against so that innocence would not die. Clark spoke to that inside of Bruce, inside of Batman. And Bruce is coming back from the grave. The first rising from the dead was not when Superman rose from the dead in Justice League. No, the first person to be resurrected from the dead was Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne had been dead a long time ago. A long, long time ago. And for the first time on the screen, we saw Batman peel off. And the real Bruce Wayne, the Bruce Wayne that was a facade all the time, the real Bruce Wayne, we saw it on his face, that child in that alley so many years ago. We saw the pain on his face. You remember the little child screaming out? Now we saw Bruce open his mouth exactly in the same profile as that child screaming out. Go back and watch the movie again. BVS is a crazy film because Zack Snyder captures it visually. Bruce was crying out, the same angle, the same shot. We see little Bruce. We see the pain. And so when Bruce Wayne in Justice League says he's more human than I am, and he says it with great passion, he knows what he's talking about. Because Clark touched him at his human core. What makes Batman tick? Clark was able to touch. And that's why Bruce calls Clark Clark. He doesn't call him Kal-El. He knows he's Kal-El. He doesn't call him Kal-El. He connects with Clark's humanity. Clark saved him. Clark brought him back from the dead. Bruce is alive again because of Clark. And in that moment, we see him now start to reflect. And as Amy Adams, Lois Lane says, it's his mother's name. It's his mother's name. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. One has a mother who's still alive that made him who he is. This is who Bruce could have been. This is who Bruce could have been. And Bruce is looking at that devil and saying, oh my God. And now he's moving back. He's stuttering back. He pulls back the spear and he's thinking. And he's running it through his mind. I'm about to kill an innocent. I'm about to kill a guy who had the mother I didn't have. I'm about to kill a guy he's pleading to save the life of a mother I wanted her life to be saved. Oh my God, what am I doing? Am I that guy he's talking about who's about to kill Martha? I need to save Martha. All these things are going through Bruce Wayne's mind. And then he realizes what Clark was telling him before. Lex Luthor. And it's starting to snap to him. It's snapping. And he takes the spear. And he flings it as far away from him as he can, as he screams in rage about what he was about to do. That he was about to be that man. And that the man in front of him is a man. He's a man. And he captures everything about humanity that we need. And he felt the hope. He felt Bruce Wayne kickstart and be alive. It was Bruce Wayne that threw that spear, not Batman. Bruce Wayne jumped back to life. And that's what you're seeing in Justice League. In Justice League, Batman still has his flaws, still has his shortcomings. But you hear Bruce Wayne, and I say Bruce Wayne now, say at the end of BVS, I failed him in life, I won't fail him in death. Let me find the others just like you, to Diana. Bruce Wayne says this to Diana because Bruce Wayne is coming back to life. And the person you saw smile at the end of Justice League was Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne knows the power of Superman. He knows his humanity. And he goes on to explain to Alfred, he got a job. He got a life among us in spite of all that power. Bruce Wayne speaking about the fact that Superman did not use his power to destroy mankind and to be reckless as he thought he was because of the collateral damage from the Metropolis incident and the setups that Lex Luthor painted to make him look that way. He realized that Superman encapsulates humanity and embraced humanity and lived among humanity and had relationships with humanity and did things that the normal human being did in spite of the fact that he didn't have to do that. And that was his narrative in Justice League, falling off of BVS. Now, I said in the previous video that Superman, he had been beaten and flogged and punished like Jesus on the cross and Jesus in the life of men in BVS. It's painful to watch. But in spite of all of that, he kept that hope. He was that beacon of hope for humanity, and he defended mankind like Batman wanted to the innocents. Batman thought you had to stamp out the criminals. You had to make them not do crime anymore through fear. Superman contrasts that by inspiring. The theme of BVS is the same theme of Justice League, except the characters changed. Now it's Steppenwolf trying to rule the world and terraform it through fear. A god, a demonic god, a monster god. Something Batman all too well knows. In BVS, it was Batman trying to save the innocents by making the criminals fear him, going to the extent of branding them in prison. Branding them so they go to prison and they die. Batman had gone to the extreme. He was like Lex Luthor. He was like Steppenwolf in BVS. But this Batman we see in Justice League, he's got back his soul. He has hope. And he even has Bruce Wayne, who's alive now. And while Bruce Wayne is still flawed in many respects, he's got that hope and he holds on to it. And he's committed to ensuring that the hope that Superman had would continue. He's protecting innocence the only way Batman knows, to stop the invasion, to stop the criminals. But he has hope in his heart. And that's what we see. We see Batman doing the uncanny Batmanish, unlikely Batmanish thing by trying to get people together as a team. He's assisted by Diana. But it's rough. People reject him. Aquaman slams him into a wall. But he's hard-headed and he keeps on pressing on, trying to find other members. And the Flash shows that there's still hope in humanity. When the Flash says, "Stop right there, I'm in," and he's like, "Just like that?" And so he's got the Flash with him. And though the Flash is annoying as hell, and Bruce is really not interested in all of that, he is happy the Flash joins. It's just 3 of them. And this team starts to form together. But here's the beautiful thing about Batman and his growth of hope. So the Flash just joins. You know, after he's putting up this resistance, once he's found out, and he finds out that that's Batman, he joins. And he's shocked when he says, "Just like that, you join?" And then the Flash talks about needing friends because he needs people. And you hear Bruce say, when he says, you know, people are just slow. That's what the Flash says. Bruce says, "I'll try to keep up." And you see him smile in an optimistic tone. His hope is growing. When the Flash asks him, "How many of them are there?" he says, "You, me, and another. Just 3 of us." He's like, "Just 3 of us? And who are we fighting against?" He says, "I'll tell you in the plane." And he behaves like Batman still. And Bruce Wayne behaves more like Batman than he does Bruce Wayne. But the point is that you can feel his hope growing. And it's funny, but the film starts to lighten up. And then Bruce is able Cyborg joins the team. Scares the Flash, of course, as he talks with Commissioner Gordon, who supplies extra information to him. And Cyborg joins the team. Notice the Flash is left in the dust, and Batman, Cyborg, and Wonder Woman, they leave. And then the last person joins the team as they're fighting Steppenwolf in Aquaman. And for those people who want to know, how did Aquaman find them? As he said, the water basically communicated the message, and he was able to find them in Gotham Harbor. Okay, the thing about Aquaman, and he's probably following Steppenwolf as well, but the thing that you have to understand is that water actually carries information. We know this for a fact. And so what whales and sea animals learn about humans is very interesting. Water carries emotions because of pheromones and so on. They disperse through the water. And so anything that pollutes the water in the seas really disrupts the animals there. And so it's very interesting that they scientifically are able to explain what Aquaman is doing. It's not that he talks to fish, but by communicating, he can actually communicate mental things. And the chemicals come off of him, as well as the alpha and beta radiation that comes out of gamma radiation that comes off of our thoughts. Every time we think, the electrical signals are converted into electromagnetic fields, and these are carried through the water as well. But anyway, the point is that Aquaman joins the team. Now we have 5 of them. He says, "Just like a bat." And then Batman asks him, why did you join us? And he explains, because of Steppenwolf. So we have 5 of them now. 5 strong. And it's interesting to hear Commissioner Gordon say, "It's good to see you working with others." Batman is changing. Because of Superman, he's changing. Out of necessity, yes. But we're seeing a Batman that's transforming. Everybody on this team has some kind of superpower. So they have some special skill or ability, except for Batman. He's a human. He's the only human. Yet he's not as human as some of these other characters are. But we go on. So what happens is Batman now is learning to work with others again. He has to be the leader. He has to be the one to inspire them. He's not good at doing that. He's good at working alone. Aquaman says the strongest man stands alone. And Batman has to tell him that's not what the saying is. Aquaman continues to call him Bruce Wayne and continues to tell him he's crazy. Which we all know Bruce Wayne is a bit crazy. But the point is he tells him that. When you look at what... And Aquaman is not really fond of Bruce Wayne. Okay? You can tell that. So you end up with these guys. They're rifting with each other. And the moment comes where Bruce Wayne talks about Superman. He's been beaten up a bit. Steppenwolf he's no match for Steppenwolf and his Nightcrawler. Steppenwolf smashes the Nightcrawler, it crashes down. Cyborg's coming in. Batman has to jump off the Nightcrawler. He's able to fight a parademon or two, but he really can't take on the forces of Steppenwolf. Okay, it's the other guys that are taking on and really doing the majority of work. He does save the Flash a little bit. But in the end, Batman, he's trying to marshal them together, inspire them, and he wants Wonder Woman to take over. And he says, man, I can't do this job. Superman, we need Superman. And you see him, he's doing it because it's a job, it's a duty. That's how he says it, at least. But it's the hope in him that burns because he's got this team together. And Alfred is like, you got the big guns. You got all those guys to help you with this thing. And he doesn't believe he can lead. And so he's talking about Superman. And you can see he has doubts even though he has hopes. And you can feel that Bruce Wayne now. Bruce Wayne is in the picture. That scared little child. You can feel that scared little child aspect of him. And then we see Batman evolve even further. He confronts Diana about Steve Trevor because she doesn't think that Superman should be brought back. And she's discussing why. And she shoves him into the wall. And he takes the shove. And he goes on to emphasize that she should step up and lead, and she's not doing that, so she should be quiet. But he really wants her to lead. That's what he really wants her to do. And you hear him discuss that with Alfred. You know, I pushed her, she could have killed me. And you can see this Batman, he's a tough dude. And you could see from the beginning of the film, he's not afraid of the parademons. He's not afraid to face these godlike creatures anymore. And you could see him now pushing to his limit in this movie. When Superman comes back, he's ready to put his life on the line to ensure that Superman is allowed to have that chance to come to give this team the hope, the boost it needs as a leader. Ironically, when Superman comes back, he's very rarely in the fights that they have to deal with. They're still, the team still fighting up with Steppenwolf. Batman tries to sacrifice his life to make sure that the team has a greater chance of stopping Steppenwolf by clearing away the parademons. And he goes solo again, showing he's not good as a team leader. Diana steps up and takes on Batman's challenge. And she steps up to Steppenwolf. She steps up and she protects Batman once again because she has a history like Batman has a history. But the interesting thing here is that when Superman flings Batman away, she smashes him into a car and then he flings him away like a toy when he's still trying to focus and come into his being, who he is. Batman says, oh, that definitely is bleeding. And a lot of people laugh at that, but I actually feel that that is Bruce Wayne talking. Bruce Wayne that's coming back to life. And now his humanity starting to come in. Batman used to be fueled by a desire to stop criminals, and he was filled with rage. Now you're getting a much more less rageful Batman. Batman is becoming more of a human being, and he can feel now his pains and bruises. So that later on in the movie, when we see the nasty bruises, how hacked up Batman is underneath that cowl, underneath that suit, he's actually a banged up guy underneath there. We see his humanity. We see his age. You hear him start to talk about how he doesn't know if he can do this much longer. He doesn't even know he can carry it on now. And that's the humanity we're finally seeing in Batman we haven't seen before in any movie. And I thought this is beautiful because when we look at this portrayal of Batman, we begin to realize that Batman is a human being. And we're starting to see the hope that Superman put in him change him into that human being. This tired old guy that's pressing on. And that we see Diana, she is not willing to let him die, even though the window would be open. Aquaman is ready to do that. And Barry Allen doesn't want her to either. And they go and they save Batman. And Batman, gets in there. He takes out the tower and everything that he was supposed to do. And then he ends up inside of the same silo. Wonder Woman comes in first and then Aquaman. Doing his little part where he can to ensure that Cyborg gets those mother boxes loose. And so when Superman shows up, it's at a point where they've tried everything they could and they're not going to be able to stop Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf has ripped Cyborg in half. Wonder Woman and Aquaman, who are the most powerful members of the team physically at the time, they were smashed around by Steppenwolf and they were underneath some boulders. Wonder Woman saving Aquaman's life. And Steppenwolf had the mother boxes and everything, and he was just telling them, he was giving them a spiel that they were too weak. And true power is, of course, the truth. And none of them can, they don't know the truth because he is very powerful. And that's when Superman shows up. And when Superman shows up, he talks about truth and justice. Truth being true power, and justice being fear with that true power. And that calls back to the statement that Batman or Bruce Wayne spoke about him. He said, he came, he had a job, he had a family, in spite of all that power. And Superman, once again, echoes that sentiment that Bruce Wayne was talking about, speaking about the fact that he knows about truth, which is true power that Steppenwolf is talking about, but he also knows about justice, being fear, and in spite of your power, using it responsibly, using it for the betterment of the people you live amongst. Be an inspiration. That's a true leader. He's inspiring. A true leader is not one who oppresses other people with his power, but he inspires with his power. And that's a powerful precept for us today. And when Superman punches Steppenwolf into the walls of the building, the silo, and he comes down on Steppenwolf and really starts to manhandle him, Batman is inspired. He remembers the humanity of Superman. He knows, and he's happy Superman comes at that time, because Superman was a no-show. He was a no-show. And he came at the right time when all hope was almost gone. And Batman's smile is not Batman, but Bruce Wayne you're seeing. Young Bruce Wayne. And it goes all the way back to what Superman said to him. Save Martha. You're letting him kill Martha. And that is why Batman makes that statement at the end of the movie. She's calm. He's talking about Martha, his mother. Superman says, I'm glad I didn't miss this. Diana says, me too. And Batman, the Bruce Wayne of Batman, says, she's calm. He's talking about his mother's death is put to rest. Finally, I can rest. She's calm. And so this movie is a deep arc between Batman's arc. And so when Batman smiles in this movie, it's not to be cheesy. No. It's because his hope is ignited even further. He's very, very hopeful. He just doesn't know how to say it. And when Superman says, I knew you didn't bring me back because you like me, he stutters and stammers and says, I didn't say I didn't like you, which is what he was trying to say. Because Batman admires Superman. He really does. He is able to peel back all those layers of his misunderstanding. Remember, people hate what they don't understand. Said in Man of Steel by Pa Kent, and said in BVS by Mark Kent. People hate what they don't understand. And Batman hated Superman because he didn't understand what he was about. And when he found out what he was about, he loved him. Loved him a lot. Appreciated him. Respected him. So when he started to stutter and say, I not like you. When he started to stutter and say that, it's because he's really deeply processing how to explain this to Superman. It's a moment that caught him off guard. He wasn't ready for it. Because Bruce Wayne is reacting. It's not Batman reacting there. That's Bruce Wayne. Young Bruce Wayne. And young Bruce Wayne is what you saw smile. Like a kid would smile at a superhero. And young Bruce Wayne is the one stuttering and saying, I didn't like. That's young Bruce Wayne. And it's young Bruce Wayne that says, she's calm. I'm at peace now with my mother's death. She's calm. He truly has received the light, not the beautiful lie of the bats that he had before. So you're asking yourself, well, now what's going to keep Bruce Wayne going? He'll still keep going. He'll still be Batman. But the Batman you will see from here on in is a much more balanced Batman. And that's the beauty of it. He's still going to be what he is. It's logical, detective. Throughout this movie, he was a detective, piecing together the puzzles for Steppenwolf and his coming. And he found out more from Diana. He was trying to get information from Aquaman. But this Bruce Wayne had to deal with superpower beings throughout. He was not going to use fear tactics to take them down, even though he's fearless in many ways and almost suicidal in other ways. Bruce Wayne was not going to, with sheer force, be able to defeat these things. And the sheer numbers of parademons, Bruce Wayne had to distract them and keep them away. And he did it for the most part, which was really excellent to see in this movie as well. Bruce Wayne is the tactician of the team. Bruce Wayne Batman. Superman is the inspiration of the team. And Wonder Woman, she's the caring, loving member of the team. Superman and Wonder Woman are very, very powerful, as you could clearly see. Wonder Woman's power level is on the level of Aquaman. But Batman, he's not strong like them. He uses technology to keep up with them. But in the end, Batman here goes on a journey from the transformation of his life with Superman to finally reaching the pinnacle of his hope on the resurrection of Superman and his return, showing the best of what mankind could be. And the movie begins with hope and it ends with hope. And that's the beautiful thing. And hope is bigger than Superman. Hope is bigger than Batman and Wonder Woman. Hope is bigger than the Justice League. That was the point Zack Snyder was trying to point out at the end of the movie. So the second resurrection, kind of biblical on you guys again. The second resurrection was Superman. And so I just wanted to point that out to you guys because that was the video I did. I did it in 4 minutes. This took a lot longer to explain. But I wanted you guys to see the virtue in these movies and the virtue in these characters and the depth to which it goes. I saw you, Trent Osborne, talk about Batman and the fact that his fixation to Superman was disturbing. And I want to tell you, it wasn't. It wasn't disturbing. And I try to show you the depth in which Batman is. When Batman says she's calm, Batman needed Superman back. Yes, desperately. And Batman in his own way, in trying to be encouraged and hopeful, he's not a perfect person. And so a lot of what he does is actually, when you psychoanalyze it, quite disturbing. But the point is, he's never altogether there. And Aquaman keeps on reaffirming, you're out of your mind, Bruce Wayne. But notice he speaks to the Bruce Wayne. He does not speak to Batman. Aquaman never speaks to Batman. He always speaks to Bruce. And the point behind it is, the first person he meets is Bruce. And Bruce is transformed, and Bruce is satisfied. He's at peace with the death of his mother to some degree. He still is going to keep on doing what he does, but that extreme offset he had in BVS, and that fear, he's confronted all those things. He had to confront his fear to deal with Superman again, the very person who he was trying to take down in BVS. But this time he's not trying to take him down. Instead, he's ready for if Superman even takes him down and kills him. So when he says that definitely does bleed, when Superman says, do you bleed? The statement that Batman said to Superman threatened him. It was for us to see that Batman had changed from that Batman in BVS. Now when the tables are turned, like what Joseph did to his brothers when they did to him, when the tables are turned, Batman was not afraid to die. His fear for superpowered beings was now not that kind of fear anymore. It wasn't xenophobia. And the xenophobia that I pointed to you guys in the Easter egg video, the xenophobia in the United States of America, make America great again, being one in which it's a white America, an America where foreigners and people who come pilgrimage to the United States of America, they're advised to leave. Whether they're dubbed and titled criminals, or whether they're dubbed and titled illegal or terrorist. And xenophobia is as a result of fear, and people hate what they don't understand. So Batman was trying to stop Superman, who is a beacon of hope. Look at all these dreamers. These dreamers only do good for the United States of America and their economy. And yet these dreamers to this day, I know people don't want me to talk about these things, but that's what Zack Snyder put in the video. He put in the movie. Zack Snyder wants us to talk about these things. He didn't just make a superhero movie for your entertainment, for your empty enjoyment. You have to face your reality. And that's what I love about Zack Snyder. And so, those of you who don't like me making these videos, too bad. I'm going to say what I have to say. I don't care if it's popular or not, because it's about truth and justice. And you can't have truth and justice if you're putting your head in the sand because you don't want to hear it. Zack Snyder is not in a fantasy world, and he's not going to give you an escapism movie. He's not going to give you it. A true hero inspires. A true hero gives you hope. He doesn't oppress people. He doesn't target people. He doesn't target civilians. A true leader leads by example. A lot of you don't want to hear this. You think it's about politics. The critics, who are mostly leftists, write for leftist columns. They pan this movie. Don't realize that Zack Snyder is reflecting leftist opinion. And not that I care to be a leftist or not, but it's just common decency. It's just common humanity. It's just common fairness to talk about these things. It has nothing to do with politics. How can you make the world a better place? How can you make it a beacon of light? How can you enlighten people and you're oppressing them? How? How? How can you say that you care about human beings, but you displace people with ethnic cleansing? You displace people under the guise of nationalism. Americans have always been proud. Always a proud people. They've always loved their country. So what are you talking about nationalism? You're a world power. You are the world power. You don't need to be nationalistic. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. How can you be a leader of the world and you're trying to separate yourself from the world? That's ridiculous. Justice League. You, me, we're the Justice League. The movement that's happening, the Me Too movement that's changing the world. The Black Lives Matter movement that's changing the world. It started by you and me, not some guy up on Capitol Hill. I don't care who they are, and I don't care what rhetoric they give. You and me, the grassroots. All around the world, globalization is suddenly a bad thing. And some of it is bad. It can be used for good or evil. It's a change engine. It's a change engine. But guess who runs the change engine? As Lewis said, the engine that runs the world. You, me, we do it. You and me determine this movie's box office. You and me determines if somebody tomorrow is going to be sexually assaulted or not. It's our voices that are powerful. They need to convince us about what they want to do. I say they, the so-called elite, the so-called people who run the puppeteer strings. But if you and me don't think, we don't critically think for ourselves. Listen to me. This is what Zack Snyder wants you to know at the end of the day. If you and me don't critically think for ourselves, and we don't with some conviction move on any matter, we'll just be puppets on a string. That's why it's important. It's important for you to hear this video and understand you have the power. You have the power. No matter how much they tried to convince you otherwise, you have it. This movie's box office, I want you to use your power. You have power. Use your power. The hope is in you. And make this movie get $1 billion. You can do it. And when you're finished with this project, take on a community project. Simple. It ain't that complicated, so don't worry. You don't have to be rich. You don't even have to have food. Smile at somebody today. Let's start the smile movement. But understand, it's not enough to just smile. Because the Justice League stands for truth, which is true power, and justice, which is being fear. Zack Snyder and Warner Brothers wanted to start a movement. They wanted us to socially get ourselves involved in the world, in every aspect of it, socially, politically, ethically, in sport. They want us to see the world in possibilities, positive possibilities, to be hopeful for the world, more proactive, because human beings deserve to be treated fairly and they deserve to have good things. That's the purpose of these movies. That's the purpose of the Superman trilogy. When Superman died at the very end of BVS, Zack Snyder gave us hope that he would return. He didn't say definitively, oh, he's alive. People took that and said he was alive. That's not what he was saying. He kept with the theme that he's been pushing since the very first DCEU movie, which is hope! 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 if I make you think a positive possibility, I've given you hope. I've given you hope. Batman's very, very inspirational speech to Diana at the end of BVS showed us that Superman had planted hope in Batman's chest. This symbol was inside of the bat symbol. Batman v Superman. Batman with hope. Batman v means with or and in law. And it was the law of hope that was pressed upon Batman's chest. Now he had the S inside of his symbol of the bat. S in here. And that's what Justice League shows you. And he's carrying that hope of Superman. He knew he had to get Superman back. That's why he said, the world needs Superman. The team needs Clark. And he was willing to take that risk, knowing that's the only way this outcome would succeed. Superman represents or symbolizes hope, not Batman. And Zack Snyder clearly points this out, which is why Superman had to come back, and Batman realized that. Batman is not a source of hope. He was hopeful, but he wasn't a source of hope. He wasn't a hopeful figure that could bring mankind back together and bring the team back together. The metaphor of hope in Superman is important for us today. Those of us who are narcissistic, pessimistic, given in to believing that it is a reality that things must decay and be destroyed and end up in destruction. Because we live in a dark world today with a lot of dark news highlighted. A lot of negative things. And this movie goes beyond that to say, in spite of all that, hope. There's a saying that says, when people speak bad of you, do good anyway. When people hate you, do good anyway. When people seek to destroy you, do good anyway. That saying is pretty much the actions of hope. Paul, the Apostle Paul said, keeping my eyes on the prize, looking forward, never looking backward. There's another saying that says, the former things are passed away, all things have become new. Hope springs life eternal. Hope gives us optimism to pursue and to race forward. And when hope is at its strongest is when faith is at its greatest. And when love is at its fullest. On that note, you guys, you have a great one.